So, quick story. The event that preceded the one we're about to talk about, the one that led into this one, Green Lantern Rebirth, it was actually the first comic series that I read, just period. First one I held in my hands, read all the way through, got to know the characters and all that stuff. And it's actually what made me fall in love with comics in the first place and what got me going to the comic book store. So that's probably why DC Comics has a special place in my heart. Even though as of late they've gotten some flack, but I still think they're pretty dope. But anyway, now let's talk about Sinestro and the war that he started. Okay, so this I'm just gonna tell you off jump. Like as far as the review portion, you need to read this. It's excellent. It's so good. So it has action. It has a great story. It has amazing villains, which you know I care about. Because if you don't have a good villain, the hero's not really doing anything that impressive, in my opinion. If he's not beating someone or facing someone that's worthy, and this one has an abundance of them, which I'll get into later. But if you read this, there is some information you need to know beforehand. So we'll get some background into it, and then we'll talk about the actual Sinestro Corps War. Let's start. Green Lantern is a character who doesn't get a lot of love. Now he's not mainstream like your Supermans, your Batmans, your Spider-Mans, your Wonder Woman's, Captain America, and all that. But he is still pretty cool. Though, I think in the mainstream, he's really you might know his name and know that he wears a ring, and that's pretty much it, pretty much surface level. So, for context, Green Lantern is actually it's a title. It's something that is given to beings who wear a Green Lantern ring and have been inducted into what is known as the Green Lantern Corps. These are space cops, essentially. They have been chosen by these beings known as the Guardians of the Universe, who select people who have the power, the willpower to overcome fear. If you are someone who is selected who can do that, a ring is sent to you, you put on the ring, you get the Green Lantern uniform, and you become one of them. And with this ring, you have the power to basically create anything your mind can't imagine. It's made out of light, so you can create anything that you can think of, um, as long as it doesn't kill. They are not allowed to use lethal force. That's the one rule. Now, us on Earth, we're lucky. The Guardians guard the entire universe, and they've divided it into sectors. Earth is in a sector called 2814, and we are blessed to have four Green Lanterns, all from planet Earth. The most famous of which is the first one, named Hal Jordan. When he was first selected, he was trained by the greatest Green Lantern of the time, a man named Sinestro. Now, Sinestro, he kind of has like a Thanos like outlook on things where he has kind of the right idea but he goes about it the complete wrong way. He thinks the best way to bring peace to the universe is just through sheer power, not really caring about people's feelings, and basically force of will, which is not great. So his student Hal Jordan has to stop him. Fast forward many decades after Hal Jordan is introduced, there's a storyline that came out where Hal Jordan essentially went crazy. It was around the time of the Death of Superman storyline, which I'll probably cover on another comic book Wednesday. But anyway, around that time, Hal Jordan essentially went crazy. His city was destroyed. He went ballistic. He ended up killing a bunch of people, including Sinestro and all the Guardians except one, and he basically had to give up being a Green Lantern at that time. Now, in 2004, a writer named Jeff Johns, who probably still one of my favorite writers of all time, he decided, hey, it's time to bring back Hal Jordan, the original Green Lantern. We're going to have a rebirth. So, Green Lantern Rebirth happened. Hal Jordan was brought back. He was redeemed. We found out the reason he went crazy was not his fault. And then Sinestro was also found to be alive, which we thought Hal Jordan had killed him back when he went crazy. And he's alive, and then Hal Jordan stops him with help from the other Green Lanterns and the Justice League. And now Hal Jordan is back. After his defeat in Green Lantern Rebirth, Sinestro decides he needs his revenge. And that leads us to the event we're going to talk about. Sinestro, now wielding a yellow ring, where he gets his power, which is basically the antithesis to the green rings that the Green Lanterns have. He creates his own core. The Sinestro core, all of them having yellow rings. And in the same way that, in order to get a green ring, you have to have the willpower to overcome fear. In order to possess a yellow ring, you have to have the power to invoke great fear. So, kind of have two warring factions, two ideologies, both with similar powers fighting against each other. Outside of the awesomeness of this being a space opera where you have these warriors with magic rings fighting each other all across the galaxy, what's awesome is the way the story is put together, because there are actually daunting odds here, like daunting odds, like why am I saying it like that? Odds, daunting odds. Ah, anyway, it doesn't, like, when I tell you, like, Sinestro is determined to win this war. So in order to do that, he doesn't only just, give out rings to people who, are scary. He also recruits some help from some of the worst and most powerful villains in DC Comics history. You have Hank Henshaw, known as Cyborg Superman, who was a prominent person in the Death of Superman storyline, who has been in prison. Sinestro frees him. You have Parallax, the being that made Hal Jordan go crazy in the first place, and he's basically the embodiment of fear. The Anti-Monitor, who was the villain of the event known as Crisis on Infinite Earths, which that's a whole thing, but all you need to know is the Anti-Monitor was a threat so great. He was literally destroying whole universes, and the last few universes had to come together in order to stop him. And then you have my favorite guy, Superman Prime. He is essentially what Superman would be without morals. He is someone also from the Crisis on Infinite Earths storyline and the sequel Infinite Crisis storyline. He has all the powers of our guy, and none of the morals, and kryptonite does not hurt him. And he is crazy powerful. Crazy powerful. Like, either on par, and I think he actually might be stronger than the Superman we know. Yeah, and that he's if I were to name my top 5 villains in comics, he would be there. So you have all that, and then you have Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, along with Hal Jordan's friends, the Justice League, and they are fighting against each other. So it's like an epic battle that is put together. And I just remember when I was reading it and I saw how Sinestro was getting all these people and how they were getting ready to fight. It was like, in my head, it's just like a heavyweight championship match about to happen. And you're just so excited. You can't wait to see what's going to happen. Now, as far as the plot goes, I don't want to reveal too much of it. You just need to know it starts with Sinestro recruiting his people. He even has his own oath for his core, which is pretty cool. I really dig it. Now the beauty comes, and I'll never Jeff Johns. I actually once saw him at a Comic Con, and he said something that has stuck with me. He said it just takes, it takes one issue to make a character cool, like a character that had been previously known as a joke or had not been appreciated. All you need is one issue to show what that character can do, and they become like amazing, right? And that happens here. Again, there are 4 Green Lanterns, and all of them in this story have some point where they shine. This is where I actually learned to love the Green Lantern Guy Gardner. He is just a loudmouth jerk, but he's a loudmouth jerk that's on our side, and we love him. Of course, Hal Jordan. You learn the analytical mind of John Stewart, the architect, and then the artist Kyle Rayner, who just is, he's like probably the most free spirited, and that's why his constructs are like probably the most vivid of the Green Lanterns that we see. On Sinestro's side, I mean, of course, the Sinestro Corps, their natural enemies are the Green Ring, Green Lanterns, but each of the main characters, or the main villains, I should say, they each have their own beef with the Green Lanterns, which enhances the reason they're there, right? So it's not something where it's just like, oh, you know what, I'm recruiting you because you're a bad guy and I want you on my side. No, they legit team up because they're like, okay, you know what, I actually dislike these people too, so let's go ahead and take them out, Sinestro. Yeah, man, and just some of the best stuff is this is when the heroes realize what they're up against. I mean, the Anti-Monitor himself It took multiple universes to beat him. Parallax, he was able to he's like as strong as an entire core by himself. And Superman Prime, yeah, there's a image that lives in my head. I'm gonna try to find it and put it here. But he's powered by the sunlight too. And I'll never forget. I think it was in his tie-in. I'll talk about the tie-ins in a second. But there's a moment where the entire like so many heroes are fighting him. I'm talking it has to be at least like anywhere between 35 and 50 heroes are fighting him, pummeling him at nighttime, right? And as the sun is rising, all of them are freaking out and saying, "No, we have to stop him. We have to stop him now. It's going, we have to now. We have to do this before what happens is about to happen." And then the sun peeks out, and one of the characters just says something like, "Oh no." And then when the sun shines and hits Superman Prime and he gets his power, he blows all of them away. It is one of the most epic moments I've read in comics. I loved it so much. So yeah, man. I mean, the setup is great. The ultimate battles are great. The artwork is just spectacular. And this is actually setting up what comes later known as the War of Light or Blackest Night, which I myself have not even finished yet. This one right here, though, I think it's probably my favorite of the Green Lantern crossovers to come out so far. Mainly because it's unique and it's so big in that it's they're literally again fighting in space across space sectors, but it's contained in that there are these pockets of characters that you have to follow, and that's it. You're not following 10 different characters on 10 different storylines. It's very easy to follow, and it's only 11 issues long. But I would actually recommend just getting it. It's in fact, I think you probably would have to get it in trade today. I'm not sure you'd find the single issues anymore. But yeah, just get the trade paperback, read through it, you'll be good. Um, and I believe, let me look it up actually. Okay, yeah, so I just checked. There's also a trade paperback for the Tales of the Sinestro Corps, which are the tie-ins, in addition to the main storyline of those 11 issues. And those tie-ins, they're basically they expand on the story of on the backstory rather of those characters that I mentioned. Sinestro had also recruited in addition to his core. So Superman Prime, Cyber Superman, Parallax, you'll get more information on them as well. But yeah, writers Jeff Johns and Dave Gibbons, they put together an epic here, man. Like seriously, this is one for the ages. I mean, it's a classic battle of good versus evil, just taken to its peak. This is peak. It's so good. The way it just busts out of the first issue. I mean, starting with the prologue, showing Sinestro and how he wants his revenge. And again, the personal nature of everything is really what drives this because Sinestro was the best of the Green Lanterns. And in his heart of hearts, he actually is trying to save the universe, right? He's not just trying. I mean, yes, he wants revenge, obviously. But at the end of the day, what he wants is a universe that is peaceful. So I think it's dope. I think he's a dope villain. He's actually one of my favorite characters. Um, this war was great. I think that it really put Green Lantern on the map even more than Rebirth did. So, if you're someone who was looking to get to know a little bit more about Green Lantern, what he's about, why he's cool, I would recommend reading the Sinestro Corps War. It is not absolutely necessary to read Green Lantern Rebirth before this. If you do, you'll have some more context. But the background I gave you about who Sinestro is, who Hal Jordan is, that's really all you need to know. The story does a good job of picking up and it tells you what you need to know. So you'll be good. But yeah, man, Sinestro Corps War. What did you think about it? If you've read it, if you haven't read it and you do, please come back here and let's talk about it. I appreciate you guys listening to me rant about this comic book. Thank you so much. And until next time, I'm out.